as a small business owner, you need to find ways to leverage your time the most. So you can either go and take one picture and it takes a lot less time, or, maybe takes 20, 30 seconds, or you can take, an extra 5 minutes and get, 240% return on that.
Wow. What's up, guys? Welcome in. Today we have the owner, the founder of HMG. And what does HMG stand for?
Horizon Media Group.
Horizon Media Group. The host of the Rob Mathis Podcast, Rob Mathis himself. How we doing, my man?
Dude, I'm doing great, man.
Doing
this
good?
is a sweet spot.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I appreciate it.
So by the time this probably comes out, we've already done the other one, which was with you. Mm-hmm. I went on the Rob Mathis Podcast and had a good time, had a conversation. It was only our second conversation we've ever had. So this is our third conversation. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. I really don't know too much about you personally and starting the business. We've talked about our businesses, but I'm excited to see how you kind of got into your space and everything. So what do you think of the shop? First time here. You've never been here before.
No, this is sweet. This
like
is sweet. Yeah,
like
man.
It.
I mean, I know we had talked before about like the Barber feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, this captures it, man. Like
awesome,
this is a spot, where you feel like you can come and be a man, hang out. And,
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Yeah,
so, obviously just talking and doing the video, that part of it has a little bit of nerves for myself. I mean, you're in front of cameras all the time. And so it's probably not much for you. For me, that always brings a little bit of nerve-wrackingness to it. But you're going to be the first person I've actually cut for the first time during the interview. So every other client I've ever done or every other video I've shot so far has been clients that I've cut for the last 10 to 15 years, multiple times. So the haircut is the easy part. I just got to think about the words. This one's going to be a little bit different because I've never cut your hair before. So yeah. I've got to kind of dial in on that side too. So dude, we're going to have a fun time though. So
this will be fun, man.
Let's go ahead. Let's get started. Let's look at this. What are we doing, my man? What do you normally get done?
I normally go with like a low skin fade.
Okay.
Kind of, bring that fade up to maybe mid-level. I like to leave a little bit of a shelf here to balance out the weight that I have on top.
Yeah.
We'll trim up the top just a tiny little bit, and I'll trust you to blend it as you see fit.
Yes, sir.
I kind of like to leave a little length on the top. So,
do you put a hard part in there or no?
No,
just leave it kind of natural there?
Yep.
Awesome. And then we're going all the way down.
Yes, sir.
No, perfect.
Yep.
Awesome, my man. We can do that. So Horizon Media Group or Marketing Group, which one?
Horizon Media Group.
Media Group. Awesome. Yep. Perfect, my man. And how long you been in business?
Shoot. We've been in business, what is it, 2023 now? Mm-hmm. I reckon we're going up like on 6-7 years now. So time flies when you're having fun.
Now, were you born and raised here in Knoxville or?
Not in Knoxville. So I'm about 45 minutes east in the hills of Newport and Cott County.
Okay.
Which is a fun place to be from, it's a small town.
A lot of pride coming from there or no?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I was actually voted, Mr. Cock Mr. Cott County. Mr. Cott County. I normally like to abbreviate it, to add a little flavor.
I like that.
But, it's a cool spot to be from, it's a small community, and we're in the mountains. But the cool thing is there's a lot of rich history. There's there is a certain swagger that comes from being from Cott County. And, there's a lot of cool, it's kind of the moonshine capital of the world as it's billed. Just because, back in the day, there was a lot of, that was up in the mountains. So there's a lot of moonshining going on up in there and, a lot of prominent moonshiners up through there, but, really now it's trying to kind of shift its vision and, everybody's looking to kind of take that next step as a community and move forward, which, I've been proud to be a part of that. And my dad actually just got elected to be mayor up there. So I get to see things from that aspect, which is cool. So it's been it's a cool place to come from. I say, I could have been from a small town. I'm just glad, or, being from a small town is what it is, but I'm just glad I didn't come from a small, boring town. So,
yeah. So I want to jump right in here, man, and get down to it here. I want you to kind of talk about what got you into media and marketing. A lot of people talk about, okay, well, you're opening a business, what's your marketing plan, or what are you going to do for marketing? And marketing itself, in and of itself, the word, it's so broad, right? That you can go so many different paths with that, you know what I mean? And so with social media now and with websites and with Google and all these different opportunities that you have to market, you have things like billboards and TV commercials, and old fashioned things, and so there's so many ways you can market your business. What is marketing to you, and what made you fall in love with it and want to pursue it as a career?
Yeah. So really my journey into media, kind of started with my, it was parallel to my entrepreneurship journey. I was at UT and I was studying finance, and I really enjoyed that field. And, I was kind of looking around. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do after school? And I quickly realized, I was like, I remember exactly where I was. I was out on the lake with my wife. We rented a pontoon boat or something, and her family. And I was looking at all these crazy nice houses. And I was like, there are two types of successful in this world. There's the successful that you see, when you work for somebody else, and there's a successful that you see when you can go out and, create your own firm, build your own value, and essentially be an entrepreneur. And I was like, being an entrepreneur aligns a lot more with my goals and what I want to be. So then I really started to think and look around, and I was just a kid in college, no real money, no anything. And I was looking for businesses to start, and I went, through a lot of businesses. Now even thinking about it, I haven't even talked about this anywhere, but or at one point, I have a friend who's he's a really good wrestler. I mean, he's built like a Greek god even still. He's in med school now, but, ripped. And at one point I had thought, I was like, what if we started a business as being security for frat parties or, just random stuff
got those wheels turned.
I know, man. Yeah. So I'd be sitting there in class and, and at one point I thought, I'm going to be a day trader. So, I was trading stocks, in the early days of Robinhood, stuff like that. And I enjoyed that. And then I realized I was trading. I had a really good, system. I'd actually made a good bit of money. And then I just stopped paying attention for one day, and, I got wiped all my gains out. And I was like, okay, yeah, I need to do something, a lot more structured and business wise. And then I realized, I didn't have at one point I was going to do some sort of, call it smart park. And I was going to put sensors, and cause I realized parking was really tough at UT. So I was going to put sensors that connected to an app, and I was going to have sensors on every single parking spot on campus, and you could see exactly where the parking spots were on an app. Then I realized stuff like that takes a lot of capital up front and a lot of development. So that led me to, okay, I need service-based. Service-based is probably where I'm going to probably have to live here to get started. And then so I started looking at things, and, then I was like, I'm really interested in producing content and media. I think I have an eye for it. I can create cool looking things. And which led me to, really kind of leaning into content creation and media production. And then I was like, oh yeah, well then how can we implement this and get the most bang for your buck out of this? And then I really started looking at digital marketing, all the strategies and things that go along with that. And that's kind of where it was born, was really where we started to see success was making content creation approachable, or media production a lot more approachable for businesses on a consistent level. So that was kind of our first real package that differentiated us from either, you kind of have your media production firms or your production houses, they make TV commercials and all that, or even, they'll shoot for Discovery and kind of send that footage up to Discovery to use in their shows or whatever. And then you have your advertising firms or your marketing firms, and they do just the analytics and, actually, pay for ads, do all these things, manage social media. And I was like, okay, well, what if we combine both? And then I also realized, what if firms had access to high quality, professional, consistent media? So, it's not enough to just buy one commercial nowadays, because by the time you get it fully produced, it's outdated. And by the time you've put it into circulation, it's, by the time somebody sees it twice, it's dated. So firms now need to have a consistent professional footprint on all their social media platforms. And so what we would do is we started going into businesses, we partner with businesses and come in once a month and shoot all their content for that following month, make it all really professional, get professional photos, graphics, video. And that's really where we started to see things take off was, a lot of these businesses, our kind of sweet spot was, they didn't have the money they don't necessarily have the capital yet to hire somebody to do that in-house, but they knew they needed it and they were hoping to elevate their brand presence. But, they did have a little bit of capital to invest in that. And, that's kind of where we started to take off. And, that's kind of the road that we've been on. And now we're really leaning into more just becoming an answer, to everything digital, as well as really trying to become innovators in the space of knowing all the tools that are there, finding your goals as a firm, and then really being creative and creating plans that work for you and your business in the most cost effective way, but also the most efficient way. And in a lot of ways, it's not plug and play. A lot of businesses have a lot of different needs and a lot of different goals. So we're all about now using the tools that we have at our disposal and the experience that we have to create a plan that really works for you and your business. And that's really where I see us taking the next step.
Awesome. So when did you start business?
So I actually started business while I was still in school in 2017. It was just my now wife at the time, girlfriend. I remember very distinctly her coming over to my apartment, and I had a PC that I had got for graduation that was supposed to be used for school, but of course I had some graduation money, so I dicked it out for gaming, which also lent itself very well to media production. A lot of the horsepower you need for gaming can translate very well over to media production or editing. And I remember, distinctly, her sitting there on the bed with me, thinking well, who could we reach out to? Or babe, does this look good? And, I just remember, chugging away at our apartment. And, I remember, one of the main things that kind of inspired me to get into this as well was, I watched Mad Men. And I was like, dude, these guys dress fly all the time. And whatever I do, I want to be able to wear a suit if I want to.
Yeah.
And so I remember one of my first, not big, it was big at the time, but it was less than $1,000 job. And I remember when I was going into that meeting, and it was a big deal. It was $750 or something like that. I remember I got in my full suit and went down there to go have this meeting.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal, which was really cool. I remember, leaving there and I was so excited. And of course my wife was excited. And I also realized an important lesson too is, if you dress to impress is definitely a thing. And I've also found that unless, I've set this up in my mind and I try to teach it to people, but unless you can never be overdressed unless everyone knows that you're there for a specific event that's been planned around, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So if there is if you're just out and about and at that meeting, they didn't think, wow, I'm overdressed because it's only a $750 job. They think, oh, this guy is doing stuff that he needs to wear a suit all day.
Yeah.
So he just wears a suit all day. Now, if you go and it's a specific event or something and it's in the evening and you've actually supposed to have allotted time to plan for this, then yeah, maybe you can be overdressed or definitely underdressed. But the majority of the time, dude, if you want to dress well, dude, just do it. Go out and do it because people will just assume that you're doing important things.
Yeah.
So, that was a lesson that I learned, but that's kind of how it started. It started in the apartment. And then, just one step after another and here we are.
That's awesome, man. So 6 years now? That makes it 6 years that you've been you've been in business?
Going on 7, yeah.
Talk about getting it off the ground and how that all worked. You've got 3 guys now, right? Or two other guys.
Yeah, so 2 guys, and we have that's our full-time team, and then we have a network of on-call kind of part-time folks who allow us to scale up to do bigger jobs or take on bigger clients as we need. So go ahead.
Yeah. So just to kind of make it a little bit of an easier question.
Yeah.
So like when you first start, is it just you running around with the camera, you doing all the filming, you doing all the editing, you doing all the sales meeting, you're doing it all. And at what point do you decide, okay, I can't handle this all on my own? Because I know when I got to that point here in the shop where it's just me, I'm doing the cutting, I'm doing the answering the phone calls, I'm going home and doing the business work on the back end, running the numbers, doing the accounting, and then trying to come in here and cut hair and post pictures on Instagram and post, do all these things. And it's a lot. And I remember when I got to the point where I was like, okay, I have to get another person in here to help me or I'm going to crash and burn very quickly here. Yeah. When was that point for you?
I think really, let me think, maybe a year and a half, 2 years in, I really got to where, I could feel that, I was getting pretty stretched thin, right? And then, along the way, so, if we started in 2017, I got married in 2019, had my son in 2020. So I actually, this is kind of, I think a good learning point is for me early on, I thought business was, what I realize now are a lot of peripheral things like, the office, bringing on people, having people to work. So I actually kind of made, there for a little bit, the opposite problem was like, I wanted to expand too quickly into opposite things. So like, I got a way bigger office than I needed. I hired people on, or I wanted more people, but not pay them as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, just so I could like feel like I had a bigger firm.
Yeah.
And then I realized very quickly that no, those things don't make the business. Like providing value and the revenue that comes from that value being exchanged is the business.
100%.
And the game is providing that value at the lowest expense. That's the game as an entrepreneur, is how much can you provide that value for less expenditure on your end. That's the name of the game as an entrepreneur. And for me, it was more, I was almost just like trying to get more money so I could spend it to grow it, just so that way I felt like it's a bigger business.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was definitely a mistake now looking back. So I corrected from there. We had the pandemic, which really allowed me a break to, number one, have my son. And then number two, to like kind of take a reset. And then so I was able to reset from all those, got out of that large office that I didn't need, was able to, restructure some of those, arrangements that I had with those folks that I brought on. That was maybe a little bit too much. After the pandemic, it was kind of like, all right, now let's build this the right way. I already have I was able to keep all of our clients throughout the pandemic, which was good. And then so now it's like, okay, well now I see what actually needs to happen. And then so from there, then I really, continued to work, brought on a few more clients by myself. And I was like, all right, now I know what I need. I want to make the right hires now. So really, smart growth happened probably 3 or 4 years into the process.
Okay.
So
I like that. One of the quotes that I always reminisce to from, I think it was from one of my high school teachers actually. And he always used to say that success comes wrapped in a box of failure.
Yeah.
And I always just kept that tight to me, where it was like, you know what? In order to succeed, you're going to have to fall down multiple times. But it's about getting up and figuring out, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? So many people think that, okay, you hear these stories of people that have made it big time and created this big companies. And it's like they only tell, they tell the good parts, and they say how they, this one thing hit and it was all uphill from there and it was great. And it's like, dude, that's awesome. And for some people, maybe that happens, but the majority of us are going to have to go through struggles, and it's about being able to pick up, learn from our mistakes, and keep going, Yeah,
100%. I mean, I think that's it. I mean, it's only a failure if you allow it to be, right? It's just any other time it's just an opportunity to learn. And I think that's something as an entrepreneur you really have to grapple with every day, is like, yeah, things may be going well, but number one, what can I be doing better? But also, like, I got to be real with myself and say, I need to be better at this, or I'm straying from the path here. But then also, I've found battling complacency and comfort is huge. And I've had to, really hunker down on that and realize like the most successful people that I know, if I ask them what their goals are, they never say, well, I just want to be comfortable. Right.
Yeah.
And realizing that for me, and realizing that in a lot of ways, comfort is the enemy. Comfort is a byproduct and is a passing, fleeting emotion that is a byproduct of having all my stuff and my head screwed on together, my head screwed on right, and all my stuff together. It's just a byproduct of that, and it's fleeting. So, so really realizing that comfort is not a destination. Comfort is something that it rewards you every once in a while if you're doing the right things. But if you're trying to get to comfort and stay in comfort, it's a self-defeating proposition. So
you hit a regroup right around 2020, during the pandemic and all that. You bounce back. Now you're 3 years into kind of a part two, if you want to say part two of your journey here. You're 3 years in, and how are things going? How are things looking for the future?
Man, we're blessed. We've been extremely blessed. Our team's growing. Like I said, we have really leaned into optimizing as well as expanding our toolbox to help our clients, and really, looking at being innovators. I mean, that's what we're about. We're looking to take proven tools, proven methods, and combining them and creating innovative ways to grow our clients' businesses and meeting their needs. And that's what I'm excited about, is shifting not only from, not just being a media production firm that has a niche purpose, but becoming a digital solution for businesses in all senses of the word. Now we take on web design, we take on ad management, we take on lead generation, we take on branding, we take on brand development, we take on even very specific solutions. So we do consulting on, okay, I have this specific problem, and this is our specific goal. How can we do this? So then we'll come in and say, all right, here are the tools that we have, and then we'll just consult with you and say, all right, this is what we can do, or what we think that needs to be done, and we'll help you implement this and really get you on the right track. So that's what I'm excited for, is expanding the value that we can provide to our clients and our potential clients, and taking it to the next level. Definitely.
So you guys are pretty much in every stage for businesses in need, right? I mean, do you feel like you see a lot more like, okay, most of the companies we work with are in the beginning stage, or maybe they're kind of in a middle stage where they've done really good for a small business, for someone that's doing that, but now they want to branch off and hit, try to take a bite out of franchises and take a bite into multiple locations and trying to really, really build that brand? Or is it even on the larger side where it is working with franchises and established names and established businesses? Where do you see most of your demographic or even your target demographic that you guys want to be in?
The cool thing is, we've had the opportunity to work with businesses of all sizes. Mm-hmm. I would say, the sweet spot is kind of what you mentioned, where, all right, we've had some success. We know what we do well. We just want to take it to the next level, and we want to tell people about it. And we want to, we're wanting to expand and grow, because then at that point you have the capital to invest in it, right? To do it the right way. And then also, larger businesses as well. Those are pretty cool to work with too, is because, a lot of times, you don't even realize how big these brands don't even realize the impact that they can have and the footprint that they already have. But what it could be, right? And then, what I like to say is like, a lot of times I like to work with people who are already walking the walk. We just want to help you talk the talk, right? Yep. So we want your everything on the digital side to match the excellence and the service that you are providing, the people that you're servicing within your business or whatever product you're selling. So, it's really business of all sizes. We've helped with startups. We've helped with, businesses that have been around for 40 years, and are wanting to grow. So that's been a really neat thing for me as an entrepreneur, and just always wanting to learn, is like, I get to see a lot of businesses throughout various, points, just in how they operate. So that's been really neat too, that I like to see.
So you're meeting with business owners all the time. You're hearing their plans. They're pitching you, hey, this is what we want you to do. This is our thoughts. These are, our goals. What do you find is a very common misconception that people have on marketing? Because we talked about it a little bit right off the bat of, marketing is such a broad term and people use it in so many different ways and there's so many different forms. So what is one kind of misconception or one thing you found that people are kind of, they have these plans, they have these ideas, but they don't really line up with how you see the industry?
This is going to probably be, it's going to be, counter to what I think most people in marketing and media would want you to believe. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it is all still human psychology. There is the algorithms and everything like that and all the social media tools. Yes, they are just that. They are tools, right? To ultimately, influence people with the same, it's all the same psychological, human interaction. We just have a way more effective and efficient tools now to make that happen and facilitate that, that message, right? So I think a lot of people see marketing as something that is, very daunting. And, I have no idea about that kind of stuff or, this is just, they just see it as overwhelming. But really ultimately, and that's something that I enjoy is being able to talk with these people is like realizing like, okay, no, this is what you tell people when they walk in your door. We're just helping you do that on a much larger scale in a much more efficient way. Nothing has to change about the way you operate. You're doing a great job anyways. We're just helping you spread the word in the most efficient, cost efficient way possible. I think a lot of people, become afraid of marketing maybe. And I think that they 100%, shouldn't be because, they've built a business, they're growing that business and they shouldn't be ashamed of the value that they provide.
So I want you to give a little advice here. Let's say someone watching this is a small business owner, or maybe there's someone that's just now starting to begin to take something that maybe they considered a hobby a little more serious. And maybe it's a part-time job and they want, this is something they would love to be their career, but they can't necessarily take that leap into that now. So here they are, they have an idea, they have something they're passionate about and they want to get started, but they don't have that business background. They don't have that marketing background. What would you give advice to them? And they don't have the funds to be able to pay HMG or maybe another company to come in and help them with that. All they have is, maybe it's just their phone or something. They don't have a nice camera. They don't have these things. And they feel like, okay, what can I do to put myself out there? How can I market myself? What's your advice for someone in that spot to just get started and just kind of get their feet wet?
So you want marketing advice, right?
Yeah. Okay, because, and I'll tell you this, because I was there and you were there at some point, where it was like, dude, if you need a camera or you need to go hire somebody to do this, or you need to buy this, you need to put money into this. And it's like, dude, I want to do that, but I don't have the money. Is it what can they do, you think, to at least just get started where they can get off the ground to get to the point where they can afford to maybe put some money into it?
I would say, really, at the base of it, when you think of it when you think of, let's just go with social media, right? I would just recommend, realize that social media in a lot of ways as a business entity is a conduit, to speak to your target audience, right? So see it that way, but then also realize I would suggest just bring value to the people that you're trying to reach. So, I think that's a great way to get really great organic reach. It's going to take work because you're going to have to, facilitate that content yourself, but realize that, that's going to be how you can make a meaningful connection with somebody is really give away the value. So say for you, some simple content that you can make, there's always entertaining content and that's, hey, everybody in the barbershop does a TikTok dance, right? That holds, a certain level of intrinsic value within itself just because it's entertaining. But really, if you could come in and be like, hey, top 3 cuts for a young business person. And then you come through and it's like, hey, we're going to do, we have the pompadour, we have the, the mid fade or whatever, or a buzz, whatever those things would be. or tips for a good haircut. What makes a good haircut? How to differentiate, if you want to look more professional, ways to professionalize a haircut, or even if you're getting a lot of mulch, you want to target mulch, be like mullet maintenance, right?
Yeah.
Create content that provides value to the people that you're wanting to reach. And then at any level, then they feel like they're receiving value, they're engaging with it. And then ultimately you're kind of creating yourself and building yourself as an expert in that space, which any credibility that you can get like that, is extremely valuable. So that would be my advice, is like, look at the services or products that you're providing to people right now and say, okay, well, how can I translate that value to them through socials? Or, I think that's the easiest way to start, and then you can get into, obviously there's a lot more stuff with, SEO and all those things and all the more nuts and bolts of actual digital marketing. But to get started, and you're just trying to establish your media presence, just provide value, don't just post to post. If you're a little bit mindful of it and say, okay, well, my ideal customer looks like this. What would he want to watch? Or what would she want to watch? Or what would draw them in?
100%.
I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because I can put myself right in those shoes and remember where I was. And it was like, I always had this thing, it's so common for young barbers and even barbers in general to post pictures of their haircuts. You know what I mean? And sometimes in the barber world, we can get caught up in that and trying to, we're going to make this look like the picture perfect haircut, and we're going to put some color and enhancements and make this thing look good. And it's like, I really caught on really quickly to be like, dude, 90% of clients don't care about seeing this picture perfect haircut. Like every once in a while, like, sure, it's cool. Like, that's a nice haircut he did, but they don't want their feed to just be a bunch of random people's haircuts. You know what I mean? Us barbers, we may geek out about that. We may look at other people's pages about, oh, that's a good haircut. Oh, he missed a spot, nitpick it. But the majority of our clients don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for me, it was like, oh, but so many people will say, oh, but you got to, show your products so that people will come in, and that's how they're going to come in. And it was like, I just don't feel like I'm providing any kind of value. I'm providing value for my friends, for my other barber, people, my coworkers, but didn't feel like it was reaching the client the same way. So then what I found that actually really worked well was to make the reels. I started making those reels where it was entertaining, right? People, for some reason, there is something about watching a haircut that's satisfying, oddly, hearing the clipper noise, maybe it's the ASMR, but just seeing the kind of step by step. So what I did was I started, instead of just doing a picture of a haircut, I started doing the reels where I was kind of going, not necessarily a tutorial or a step by step, but I was just showing different parts, cut off the hair here, just 1 second clips all put together, and then the final product of the haircut. And those did really well. Those numbers, I went from getting 8 or 9 likes on a picture of a haircut to getting 8, 9, 10,000 views, up to 20,000 views on the reels. And I realized quickly, like, okay, this is so much better because I'm still getting the product out there. People were still coming in saying, oh, I want this haircut that you did on this video, but it was a little bit more entertaining, and it was a lot easier for somebody that doesn't care about haircuts. Maybe even people that will never come in the door to watch. You know what I mean? Someone that's never coming here isn't going to scroll through my pictures of haircuts, but they may scroll through and watch a couple reels of the video. So I think that's 100% accurate in the fact that try to find something that, yes, it still promotes your business. It's still about your business and what you do, but it's entertaining for the person that's not you, that's not so passionate about what you're doing. Dude,
I love that. No, there are 2 main points that I love about that. Is like, number 1 is, it's very key, and you keyed in on this, is think of your consumer, the people that you're trying to reach, and backwards plan from there. So you realize, like, okay, yeah, at some point, all these fades are kind of looking the same.
Yep.
And then they have the same backdrop, and then they all look exactly the same. I don't feel like I'm bringing that value to the consumer. So then you shifted and you said, okay, well, how can I make this more engaging and more enticing for people to watch? And so that's the main point. And then number 2 is, this kind of goes back to if you're just in that space where you aren't able to really invest in anything or anything like that, is make sure just put in a little bit extra time and research what maybe platforms or formats are going to leverage your limited time the most. So you going to Reels is a perfect example of that. And I don't know if you did this intentionally or not, but with that short form revolution that we've been experiencing with TikTok, whenever they busted on the scene in the pandemic, Instagram Reels has been trying to catch up. YouTube Shorts has been trying to catch up and capitalize on that short form content. So if you post a reel, I think the number is you get like 24% 240% more engagement and exposure because Instagram is trying to encourage people to produce short form content for their format. So with that, as a small business owner, you need to find ways to leverage your time the most. So you can either go and take one picture and it takes a lot less time, or, maybe takes 20, 30 seconds, or you can take, an extra 5 minutes and get, 240% return on that.
Wow.
So really just put in and you can just do a simple search. Just be like, what's the most efficient place to post or efficient media platform right now? And it'll pull up and it'll be like, Reels, TikTok, whatever. And so with that, leverage your time, especially if you have that limited, if you have limited resources, that means you probably have limited time as well.
Yeah.
So, that's something that I really think can be very helpful for people.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So recently you also, as a part of HMG there, you started up your own podcast.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that now?
So we actually had a business HMG podcast that was, really a lot of fun, and it was actually pretty successful. We got a lot of, really good feedback, a lot of good views on it. Then we got busy, and we just had other priorities that we had to do. So that kind of fell off. But now we're going to rebrand that over to the Rob Mathis Podcast, just because number one, I think it's going to be good because, I get to cover a lot wider variety of topics. Number two, it doesn't feel so, corporate. We can have some real personal conversations. And really with the Rob Mathis Podcast, I have a few goals with it. Number one, I want it to kind of be a, not a who's who, but, for lack of a better term, a who's who of East Tennessee and movers and shakers or beyond, but just a place for people who have vision, who have accomplished and done some really cool things to get together, have some real conversations. And, really for me, I wanted it to be a place to which we can hear real stories from real entrepreneurs from the real place that you live, right? So, in a lot of these podcasts you go out and you see, and it's like, oh, that's great. This guy made $1 billion doing some sort of banking or, this is $1 million barber from LA and he cuts all these rappers' hair or whatever.
Yep.
But I wanted to show, like, having you on, it's like, this guy's, he's successful. He's here in Knoxville. You can go and visit his shop. These are the stories that he's telling. This is the real connection, and we all can experience these things together. Or even, like Ryan from Maple Hall, this has been a prominent business downtown for going, upwards of 10 years now. What does that even look like? How did it come to be? All these cool stories of places that you can go. And, that's really been a lot of fun to kind of move into and shift into.
Dude, 100%, man. And that's why I started doing mine was I just realized I cut all these clients. And like you said, no, they're not celebrities. No, they don't own, these multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're not going to all the events, but they have built very, very successful businesses here locally. They make great money. They've built something. And that's what 95% of us are looking for. You know what I mean? We're looking for the freedom, the opportunity to build what we believe in and something that can provide for our families and we can live a good life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're not out here. I'm sure one day if you're the top of the top and you're making billions and you're invited to all the great things, like, yes, is that a goal of yours? I'm sure. But is that why you started the business? No. And so there's so many clients that I get to meet on a day-to-day basis that, like you said, they're here in Knoxville. They have one building, or they have, they've got multiple locations, but not outside of the state, not outside of the country. They're not global, but they've gone through it and they've built something that most people would say, man, that's a dream for me. Most people come in and like, I'm working my 9 to 5 and I wish I could be doing this. And they don't always see how attainable that is. And we talked about on your podcast how you got to just be practical. You know what I mean? You can't look too far ahead. You got to say, how can I get started? And so many of these people have done that. So many people you've interviewed, so many people I've started to interview. That's how they got started. And so I think it's so helpful for people to see other people do it and that they were able to be successful, hear their stories, hear how they got through it. And then maybe they'll be inspired to give it a try. Maybe they'll be inspired to give it a shot, because a lot of people are like, I probably will never have bigger than great clips. That's probably, even if Barbers United ever grew to that, it would probably be after I was long gone, right? Mm-hmm. But I can get started and I can get going. And I think that for a lot of people, that's the hardest part, And so being able to hear other people's stories and say, man, that is attainable. I think that's huge. And that's the part of it that I love. And getting to meet so many clients here, even just in a year and a half that I've been open, I've heard so many different stories that I'm like, man, that touched me, that inspired me, and that helped me to learn from and apply to my business. And maybe we can do the same with other people,
No, yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, and then too, you always run into like, if you're watching, I'm sure you watch a lot of content on like, these business podcasts or successful, whatever, or even Joe Rogan, but it's like, oh yeah, well, of course, you're in LA or you're in New York or Austin and it's like, what can we do here in Knoxville? What does that look like? Or even, even in a weird way, my vision is in a weird way, kind of be a form of networking. If you can be somewhere and be like, oh, I see that guy. He's on the Rob Mathis podcast, talking about, I know his business, I know his story, and I want to go up and be like, hey man, I heard your story. It's an awesome. If I can open a door for just one person to go and like facilitate a cool conversation with somebody that they've been wanting to facilitate a conversation with, I feel like my job is accomplished.
Yes,
so,
sir.
I may not ever be, a Joe Rogan or well, he's the king of podcasts. I may not ever reach those heights, but if I could facilitate a few conversations here or there, that's all that matters. I mean, that's what it's all about.
100%. So where can we find the podcast?
Yeah. So, it'll be on the podcast will be on YouTube, Spotify, all the normal places. And then, clips will be on all forms of social media, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. And you can look at my personal Instagram on, at the Rob Mathis. We're actually looking to, I'm going to be pushing a lot more like business minded stuff, more along the lines of, business psychology, really ways to self-improve, things that I've learned, things that I am currently learning, some tips and tricks on that. So
perfect.
Yeah.
And let's say there's maybe a business owner on here or a marketing manager and they want to get in contact with HMG and talk about potentially, doing some work together. How can they reach out to you? What's the best way to do that?
So you can either reach out to us on any of our socials. So, message us on any of our socials, or you can email me directly at robmathis@horizonmg.net. And, we'll get together. We'll have a free consultation. We'll sit down and just talk about what your goals are, what we can do to help you achieve them.
Awesome, my man. Hey, let's check this haircut out. Let's see what you think.
Yeah, let's see. The big reveal.
Woo!
Dude, that looks great. Thanks, man. Yeah.
So got it low right there, kind of around the ears.
That's perfect.
But then dropped it a little bit in the back. That way we didn't get too high right there.
That looks
and then try to keep that shelf. Let you look at it from the front there. Do you want any more length off the top, or does that
No, that's perfect.
look like good length? Took about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch off throughout it. So
That's perfect, man. Dude, that's exactly what I wanted.
that'll work for you? You're not just saying that for the camera?
I swear. I would. No, trust me. I would get up and storm off. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't believe you.
But no, I really am. No, this is legit.
We've met in person 3 times. I don't believe you. You don't seem like that kind of guy.
Awesome cut.
I always do. I tell a lot of clients, like, especially when it's their first time, and it's like they get in, I'm like, dude, just be honest. Like, if you see something, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. Like, there are barbers that they can get a little prideful and they might offend them, but it's like, dude, I always tell them this, and they like it when I say this, but I'm like, you're the person that has to wear it. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
a good point.
You can get out of this chair, you leave. It's not gonna affect me one bit. Like, I never have to think about it again. You've got to walk around with it 24/7. So if you see something you like, just don't tell me. Like, dude, because just do tell me. If you don't tell me, like, I'm never gonna know to improve on that in the future, and you walk out not happy with your money. So like.
No, what's funny is I think that's a problem that creatives have just in general, like, because we're the same with media. Like, anytime that we're producing stuff, especially on the creative side, if we're shooting videos, we're like, just let us know. Yeah. Like, I mean, we do this as a job. Like, it's cool. Just let us know and we'll fix it. We'll do whatever you need to do to make it right. So with that being said, I think we both understand how helpful criticism or correction can be. It's an awesome cut, dude. You did great. You did great. Awesome.
Rob, appreciate you coming in here. Appreciate you having me on your guys' podcast over there, and hopefully we'll see more of you soon. Hopefully, I like the setup. I think we're going to continue to do some discussions and see a lot more of you guys and your guys' work and helping us build our brand and our name. And I'm excited for the future. Shout out to Corey King for putting us together.
Yeah, Corey.
He's the man. So appreciate all you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe, and go tune into my mans as well. So appreciate you guys. Have a good day.